Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to another Looped In with Maritza. Uh, Welcome. My name is Maritza Gertie. I'm a member of the National Parents Union, and I'm also the current Deputy Director of Parent Power and Outreach for the National Parents Union. I want to thank all of you for tuning in to this, newly uh, framed out Looped In with Maritza. I hope you like the background. This is the background that I will be using for this entire month, commemorating Black History Month. So as I do in every show, I'm gonna just give you a few brief announcements before I bring on my special guest. Anyone that is interested in being a part of the National Parents Union is very easy. It is free, whether it's an individual membership or an organizational membership. Just log into nationalparentsunion.org. You will have a brief questionnaire, which will allow you to become a member. And once you do that, you will have access to a plethora of information, workshops, seminars, toolkits, and you also then be able to see what the latest or current campaigns are that the National Parents Union is currently um, putting out across the country. If you need any information on the National Parents Union, you can send an email to info@npunion.org and someone will respond to your email with any questions, suggestions, comments you may have. Info@npunion.org. If you do not already know, family, National Parents Union has a main Facebook page, but we also have regional pages. We have a Northeast region page, a Midwest page, a Southwest page, a Texas page. We're going to be implementing a Far West page. You can become a part of all of these if it's specific to the state you live in. But please remember this: being a member on the page does not make you an official member of National Parents Union. So please make sure to go onto the National Parents Union website to then become an official member. For those of you that do not know, every 6 months, there is an election going on, whether it be a local election, a state election. It is not just about going out every 4 years for a presidential election. In your communities, it's very important for you to be a part of the decision-making process and voting a person in, whether it be for a state rep, city council member, district attorney, commissioners, anything that a person, even for someone that is running for block captain, a person that is running for to be their school board president, if you're able to do so in your city, a person that's running to be superintendent, a school board member, even down to the parent organization, whatever it may be at your child's school, make sure you exercise your right to vote. Every Family Votes is the campaign that is ongoing with the National Parents Union. And if you want to be able to get more information on voting rights, how to form a panel discussion with the elected officials in your community, have them all come together. If you don't know the steps on how to plan that, go on to the National Parents Union website, click on the Every Family Votes tab, and there is a toolkit that was made to better help you be able to form these kinds of meetings in your community when it comes time to election time, so that all of you can then be better educated on what to ask all of these candidates that are going to be running in your community. EPIC, the EPIC campaign, Everyday Parents Impacting Change, is the campaign that is another campaign that is currently happening with the National Parents Union. This is where it is very important that you, as an adult caring for a child in your home, in your care, you want to know where the funds are being spent in your school. You want to know how resources are being allocated, especially with the American Rescue Plan money, especially with the ESSER funding. $122 billion have been allotted by the federal government spread across school districts in this country, and you as a parent of school-age children have the right to find out, to ask how these monies are being spent. Join the EPIC campaign on the National Parents Union website. Be a part of the individuals demanding transparency when it comes down to these funds that are being outsourced and given out. Schools across the country, districts across the country, you have a right to know where this money is going. A few more things here. Locally, if anyone in the Philadelphia area is seeking to get a rapid test done for the month of February, every Thursday, the remaining Thursdays are the 10th, 17th, and 24th, 141 East Hunting Park Avenue, that is front in Hunting Park. They're offering COVID tests from 9 to 1. They are free. They don't require insurance. They don't require identification. Just show up, get your test, know your status. Now, I'm going to bring on my guest because we have a lot of things to talk about. And I can't wait to bring him on here. And I'm going to allow him to introduce himself. Welcome.
Hello, hello. Thank you so much for having me.
For those that do not know you, sir, please introduce yourself.
Awesome. So I was waiting, when you lead a podcast, it's always like, okay, I'm trying to be the guest and not the host. But thank you for giving me that time to allow me to introduce myself. So I'm Jason B. Allen. I'm also known as Professor JBA. I am a 17-year educator. I currently teach special education. I am thankful that in May of this year, I'll be graduating with my master's in special education. And so I want to, do something wild and crazy that I inspire my students to do. And I want to be in the 1.87% of Black men in this country that have a higher degree or a PhD in special education. And I feel like it's so timely because when we look at the numbers, I know I'm just introducing myself, but here's me, right?
Yes.
When we look at the numbers of Black and brown children in special education programs across the nation, they rank highest from our ELL, distinguished or I hate labels, but this is the reality of America, right? English language learners, African American mixed race boys. They are the highest in special education programs, and then they don't see anybody that looks like them. No one who's actually had, a learning disability or who has been identified as gifted and talented. So that's a little bit about me. I'm an advocate for students. I'm an advocate for teachers, and I'm also an advocate for grandparents. I run my family's foundation, which is Lily's Foundation. You may see the logo behind me. We serve grandparents in Atlanta, raising school-age children. But I also have Students for Equity. It's a student group that has, for the last going on 2 years now, been advocating for educational equity here in Georgia and beyond. And then, just to Myra, the podcast. So go to educationalentities.org, check out all of the things that I'm doing there. But that's just a short introduction. I made it a little bit longer because I started preaching about my passion. But yes, I am an advocate for the kids, y'all, especially those who are overlooked and not counted and, not served well. So, okay, that's me.
That's you? Oh my God. I mean, I love that that's you. I absolutely love that that is you. So we're going to touch upon a few things because the last time we saw each other was February of last year when I went to Atlanta for my birthday.
Yes.
So I'm like,
and welcome back anytime.
Yes. Listen, I'm coming back. Definitely. I have too many people. I'm like, I consider, friends, family. I have to go back. I mean, I loved it. So we're gonna touch upon, because you had the experience of being able to run for an elected seat on the school board. Share with me your thoughts on the importance of voting rights for folks, and especially a lot of things that are still going to be going on in the state of Georgia. Talk to us about that.
Awesome. So last year, I ran for school board here in the city of Atlanta. I was the special education teacher. There were three of us. There was a college professor at Clark Atlanta. There was a high school math teacher, and then myself as a special education teacher. We were all running for school board, and it was such a great experience because teachers are so overwhelmed right now, and our voices are being suppressed in ways that people don't even imagine. And so it was really invigorating to do that and be, someone who is like a catalyst for change, but also for teachers. So I have a blog called The Educator's Voice where I'm opening up my classroom to share our experiences, because as we talk about reimagining education, we can't do this without teachers being in the forefront. That's almost like, we want to look at what cars are going to look like in the next 50 years, but we're not talking to the engineers that are actually creating them, right? We're not talking to the visionaries. And for education, that's teachers. And so when the students and I broke down the data from the census, we looked at, the polls from voting and, collected that information. We did see where we made gains. Shout out to, Generation Z. They are definitely growing, and they're involved. They're coming of their own. They're seeing that, okay, we do have some stake in the game. We worked a lot with students, and that was the work of what was then called the Atlanta Student Coalition, now Students for Equity. And we have really gained momentum, and the students have something to say. And so when we talk about voting rights and voter, engagement, it's the education piece. That's what we learned from this last election. It was the education piece. Who is funding your candidate? Okay, are we funding the candidate? Because we know that's the political game. What are these special interest groups' agenda items? No one thought to look at that, so we can look at how we can collaborate better than focus energy on attacking each other. See, I saw this as I was going through it. And so we were actually able to pivot and say, no, our campaign is going to stay strong to this. Case in point, the incumbent that I ran against is now running for Senate.
Wow.
They were just sworn in January of 2022. I just want to note that as well. The election was in November of 2021. This is the voter education piece. Now, because other candidates ran campaigns and they were at each other's throats, and negativity, all kind of mailers that really it was political banter. I didn't do that. I was straightforward on the issues. And so people didn't think twice about me saying, Jason Estevez is running for a Senate seat here in Georgia. He will be the first Afro-Latina to be in this role. I'm an advocate for that. I've lived in both Cuba and Mexico, so I'm very much a brown cousin. And I appreciate those milestones being made, because I do believe that he can gain that seat and do some work for the people in a different capacity. That's not saying that he was perfect. That's not saying I agree with how he did it. That's just saying that I see the bigger picture, because it's not about me. And that's one of the things that the students and I have been working on with educating people around how we vote. Who are we supporting? How are we investing in the elections? Do we know what our true issues are, and what are solutions that we can actually get into place through this elected office? And so these are the conversations that I'm excited about Students for Equity having about how schools are being operated, what they're learning, how they feel about CRT, how they feel about domestic violence that's happening in our communities. Parents, I need y'all to get ready, because a lot of parents are like, we want better, but the students are like, but mom and dad are not voting. I know, because I have to remind them. So if mom and dad not voting, grandma and them don't have a way to go vote, because you didn't get baby and them a car, because we know times are pressed, right? We get it. but we didn't make the accommodations for the young people to do what they could do to get things done, because we're trying to make ends meet. I get it. No judgment at all. But parents, it's a strong message when, you know, your child is saying we're struggling like this at home, and you, your neighbors, your coworkers didn't have the opportunity to get out and vote. It's almost like, yes, baby, I feel your pain. I want to help you. But in this avenue, right? Because voting is just one avenue. In this avenue, I wasn't able to show up. And when we don't show up, the decision is still being made. And so
Yes.
that's my experience from running for school board. I am going to be running again. I'm still raising money right now. You can go to allenforschoolboard.com because we are, again, actively doing the work. You know, it's not an off season. That's the other thing that I want to end on in regards to voting rights, voter education, voter engagement. You made such a great point earlier. Every 6 months, it's a cycle. It's like the never-ending story. You have to keep the momentum going, which means that churches, you know, faith-based institutions, you don't get a break. We still have to show up to make sure that seniors, this is what I'm doing with grandparents in Atlanta Public Schools right now, making sure that somebody is at the table advocating for them so that they can keep their homes in the city. This is the Worker Students for Equity. We're educating those high school seniors, those recently graduated from high school, those who were in college, who don't understand that, okay, you're still in Chatham County, you still need to be voting. So we need to get your absentee ballot in. Just because you're not in Atlanta, I know this may be taking up time, but I want to give as much resources as possible for people, because this is what I do in my classroom. This is how my students and I'm probably dating myself when I say chop it up, but this is how we, you know, this is what we talk about, right? This is how we strategize. And so we need people to understand that it's a method to voting. It's not just go out and vote Democratic, because the reality is you have to ask the Democrats, what have you done for me lately? Come on, Janet.
That's right.
You know, shout out to the Janet documentary.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Okay, the Janet documentary. We can just have a whole nother show about that.
Whole nother show on that. Yeah. Shout out to Janet though. But yeah, you got to educate the people. And so
that's why I say I don't want to see elected officials only during Thanksgiving and Christmas.
Yeah.
I don't need a turkey. I don't need a food basket, fortunately. I don't need a free book bag, you know, with her back to school. Fortunately, I'm able to get that for the children in my home, and I appreciate that I have the ability to do that. But do not only come out to then give out what I say is tokens to the community. If I don't see that elected official be out there all the time, you know, when it's raining, when it's snowing, when, you know, when the violence is at its highest it's ever been since the 90s.
You're right.
When their children out here running around in hoodies when it's freezing because they don't have a coat. You know, when utilities are being cut off because people can't afford it or don't know how to do it. It's the same thing with understanding your voting rights. It's the same thing with the census.
Yeah.
Every 4 years.
You made so many good points around when you mentioned the 90s. My mind went back to, you know, John Lewis just recently passed. So many people, you know, have, you know, God rest their souls, and just, you know, taking a moment to send positive energy out to families, because a lot of people are grieving. You know, a lot of people don't realize that, like, even in our fight for equity in schools and, you know, getting our elected officials to do the right thing and trying to reduce, you know, crime and violence, but wanting to get pay increases for people who really deserve it, who need it to take care of it. In the midst of all of those things, people are still grieving their loved ones that they've, you know, lost. And so I wanted to definitely acknowledge that. To touch on all of your points around voter education, it's the engagement. You know, with the foundation, we just had elected officials out. We adopted a senior community that, you know, a lot of them, it was my dad's vision. He was talking to me one day about how there's so many seniors in the pandemic who are passing away and they don't have family. No one is there to see them. No one is, you know, showing up. And it's like, how do they know that they are loved? And I was like, Lily cares. And that became our initiative to adopt senior communities in Atlanta. And these are seniors who are like, yeah, we're watching the news and we're seeing what's going on. We vote. Nobody listens to us. No one comes and talks to us. And so we just did lunch for them. That's, a part of what we're doing just to engage them. And we'll be providing activities to them with our grandparents and with their grandchildren so that we can all, bridge that gap. I'm saying all of that to say this, that I called those same elected officials that I voted on and said, hey, this is the news not going to be here. This is not this ain't a PR. So, I don't flow like that.
Yep.
These people are your constituents. If you have time, would you be willing to show up? Councilwoman Keisha Waits left a human trafficking summit. She had finished it right on time. She left there. She was like, I didn't even eat lunch. She ate with us. She ate with the seniors. She ate that Subway sandwich and them chips. We had a good time. And it meant a lot for them because they were like, wow, like we weren't at like the other places where the mayor got a chance to go and visit with people. And, it's, it makes people feel good when they're noticed. And so I'm sharing this story to say that we as the community, we have to call these elected officials. Don't just allow them to show up on Thanksgiving and Christmas. Now, player, we have people out here, and I got in my zone because I said players. That's so funny. We have people out here who need coats right now.
Yes.
We need these shelters open. We need you to actually come and walk through. Don't make no big announcement on social media and no press release. Show up to these shelters and see, do they have the air filters? Do they have the right systems to make sure that COVID-19 is not spreading? Do they have blankets? Are they clean? Do we have a partnership with a dry cleaner that we can say, hey, this is a small business in the community. Let's get you a contract to clean these blankets and these clothes for these people who we are sheltering and housing here because we care about them. Simple things. These are things that my students, y'all, and this is why this is so important, because my students are students who are discounted. Students who are being raised by grandparents, students who are in foster care, students that have had a parent or a sibling or a whole family to die in the pandemic.
Yes.
People who are forgotten about. They are the ones that have these ideas. And it's so basic, not to minimize it, but it's just like, to them, it's like common sense. Like, Mr. Allen, we see what you're doing. Like, they can't make no partnership. You mean to tell me that nobody can pick up the phone? I be almost in tears, but sometimes I do be in tears, and they just be like, "Mr. Allen, you got to get it together." I'm like, y'all don't understand how powerful this is, though. Like, just to think about it, like it's just common decency, common sense. That's what this generation of young people want, and we have to get out of this place of where they're not engaged with voting. They don't care about that. They're just into technology. They're just into violence. And I said, but here's the reality, parents, teachers, administrators, adults, human beings, Americans. We are modeling for them what we see them doing. Who you think they're learning it from? All of us. They see us when we get on the phone at home about how much we hate our boss, how much we hated Trump, how much we hated this, how we treat each other, how we talk about each other, how even when someone has done me wrong, let's be honest, because I came on here to drop truth and knowledge. This is truth and power, right? We have to be honest about how we have all shown up. We all play a part in the domestic violence and the abuse of children and how these young people are acting out. Go back to your childhood. My students had broke me down about 3 weeks ago, y'all. I'm straight up. They were like, Mr. Allen, we get you preaching. Now, we love you preaching because we're going to stand with it. But we're going to ask you this too. When you were growing up, whether it was in the early 2000s, 90s, I don't really tell them my age, so they try to guess around which decade it is. But they asked me this question, and I'm going to ask it to everybody who's listening. Go back to the time when you were a teenager and you were growing up. Think about those experiences that mom and dad don't know about, that your friends know about, that your diary knows about.
Yep.
The things that happened in school that teachers didn't see, or maybe they did see and no one said anything. Think about all of those experiences, and then think about everything that's happening in our country right now, where young people, Generation Z, they can't tell if it's the 1940s and 50s, and now they fighting for their voting rights, and they don't know what their future is going to look like. Let's be real, y'all, right? This is the heaviness of this. This is their teenagehood. This is their coming of age time, and they went through seeing as babies President Obama and how that changed a dynamic of our country and globally, how people started to think differently and act differently, to being of coming of age through Trump and feeling like, whoa, wait a minute, like they just came and did this on the Capitol. Like they're still shooting black and brown people down like on the street. Like my mom doesn't know if she wants to send me to school or homeschool me because we got to worry about me just
Walking down
walking down the street to the
yes,
park.
and being shot.
Like,
Yes.
right. So
That's
let's be honest, y'all. It's bigger than just, oh, the youth are just rebelling and acting out. Look at what we have created.
yes.
Then let's go back to our
agree.
teenhood and think about how we would process everything, whether you grew up in the 80s, the 70s, the 90s, the 60s, the early 2000s. Think about all of the things that were happening. We forget the early 2000s, it was the Muslim ban. You couldn't even wear a head wrap. If you had locks, like you weren't in corporate America. Come on, y'all. We got to remember these things.
Absolutely.
So I'm just sharing that.
History is doomed to repeat itself if people don't change.
Yes. If
and it's just been a perpetual cycle. And I said it before with the previous guests. Every generation has their battle. But for some reason, the battles that are going on right now, it's an exact replica of what happened back in the 50s, the 60s, the 40s, when it comes to that us versus them mentality. And it's a shame. And now it's to the point where this for me brings in the perfect segue for current and future educators.
Yes.
There's so many current educators that have said, you know what, when June comes, I'm out.
Yeah.
And it's sad to hear them say that. So many wonderful teachers are so
leaving.
Stressed out.
It's true.
They're like, we're done. And then those that may be looking into the teaching profession are saying to themselves, I don't want to deal with that.
Let me tell you, sis, I want to share this with you. So I am a part of the American Association of Educators Fellowship. They asked me back this year after I was initially in the program last year and I ran for office. And that really impacted, even though I didn't win the seat, I won so much more. The impact that it had on teachers, not just in Georgia, but across the nation, who were like, I'm ready to leave the classroom. I'm ready to leave education. I want to do something totally different, even if I have to take a second mortgage out on my home to go back to school. All of the different stories that people shared with me. And so, first and foremost, shout out to organizations that really stood behind me and, supported elevating my message in regards to really educating the educator's voice, hence my blog that is monthly, that comes out once a month. And I'm opening up my classroom again to really highlight the work that is happening in the classroom, like real work that's happening in the classroom. A shout out to Abbott Elementary School, because everybody absolutely loves it. And I think that dynamic is great because it gives you that lightness of education. But sometimes we need that heaviness, we need that realness, we need those things that make you go, So all of these things are important, right? And so the future of education, we cannot reimagine education without teachers. And so one of the things that I said that I wanted to do after running for office was to elevate the voices of educators. So Under Educational Entities, that way is a podcast that's hosted by Anthony Downer. He's a fellow teacher here in Georgia, and it's a podcast by teachers, elevating teacher voices in the conversations around CRT. History teachers. Now, let me also say this. Teachers who have a degree in this, that are teaching this, they are history teachers. They know what this is in regards to how this is going to show up in public schools. Now, while we have lists of books that people are saying will be banned from classrooms, To Kill a Mockingbird, I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings.
Yes.
Rolling Thunder, Hear My Cry. I'm like, I remember my great grandmothers knowing of the story, but could not read it because they only had a third grade education. They finished grammar school because they had to go in the fields and work. So I just want to be real about this, Black and brown people in America, that this is why I created this podcast, so that a teacher would have a voice to be elevated. But we have some more podcasts that are coming from teachers to elevate our voices and conversations that are not being heard. And so be not dismayed. We are going through a major shift in education, but there are dedicated teachers. I am going on my 18th year in education, and I see people that have more years to me that are retiring. I see teachers that have less years to me, just as many that are like, in June, that's it. And I said, but have you done everything that you possibly can? Did you really show up to meetings? Did you let them silence you? Because here's the deal, and I'm going to say this to teachers. If you have been in the game longer than 5 years and you're in a contract, if it's a public school district, future educators, it depends on us. If we just retire out and say, oh, I'm just going to take the easy route out and get my money because I got to think about me, then the reality is those 10, 12, 20 years, did you value those, or did you waste them? Because if you're going to allow the system to just push you out and your voice is silenced and now there's a void for children, then who really won? So we have to do this for the children. And I'm saying to educators, do what you need to do to take care of yourself, but don't let your voice not be heard. And we are too smart to say that, oh, I can't put myself out there. We know how to get things done. I'm just going to say that. We know how to find people that are doing the work. We know how to look up resources. So there are no excuses. Use your voice, make your voices heard. Don't leave this field without making a dent in helping us reimagine what education will be for our future generations. Absolutely. That's what I'll say to current and future educators. We can do this, y'all.
And we can do it. For those that are afraid of being silenced with the climate that everyone's living in right now, this right here is very important. For those teachers, for those educators that want to be able to teach the truth in their classrooms, they really need parent and community support. They really need, because I guarantee you, if enough families came out in support of the teachers that want to teach the truth, real history, world history, to our children, that would then translate to our children treating each other better and being more respectful of everybody's differences.
You gotta value that.
It's not going to happen unless we have enough parent and family support and community support for these teachers in these schools. I feel bad for those teachers that are being silenced, that are being fined, that are being threatened with being fired, because for me, in my opinion, that's happening because not enough parents and guardians are standing up at the schools and saying, "You're not." I'm
gonna say this, sis. I'm gonna say this. It goes both ways, and this has been my experience as a district administrator and also a school administrator. What happens is a system, you guys. What happens to teachers, it happens to parents. I know parents who are like, okay, I've got to find a school for my child because I was vocal at this meeting. I see that my child is coming home saying that, they see them bullying me. Like, they'll sometimes purposely send me to the restroom. Like, seriously, this is what's happening to kids, y'all. They are purposely sending me to the restroom because they know I'm going to be bullied because they're mad at my mom for calling out what's going wrong in the curriculum in the school and how this really isn't happening the way that it should. And so parents and teachers are getting the brunt of this. And this is not easy work. I'm going to be honest with you, something that I have not even shared on my own podcast. A lot of people, applauded me because they were like, you challenged the state and you really helped get rid of the culturally biased test that was found to be racist against, allowing teachers of color to get their certification and come into the classroom. And so I wasn't one of the teachers. I just said, listen, I have to speak out because if I don't, there are going to be so many future educators that get knocked out before they even get started. And so I'm sharing this to say that, yes, I was a teacher and I spoke up and I challenged the state, and it was difficult. It was hard. So much so that they did not renew my certificate. So I had to come out of the classroom. So a lot of people did not realize that at the onset of the pandemic, I was advocating and fighting the state. And yes, it was a major win. There were like 50 plus educators of color that got a chance to keep their certificates and stay in classrooms, but I lost mine. When the pandemic hit, when people were losing their jobs, a lot of people did not know that. But I still kept doing the work. I had to keep going because at the end of the day, when you're called to do this work, it's going to work out for itself. And
Absolutely.
it did. Now, even with that, it still was challenging. Like I mentioned that I'm graduating in May. I should have been able to graduate last year, but the state made me redo student teaching. Mind you, I said I was a 17-year veteran educator, but the state of Georgia made me redo my student teaching, saying that, oh, well, you're going into a new field. But it really was because we know why.
Yes.
I did not take any of that back because all of those things led me to run for school board. It led me to touch families who felt like they were not being heard or seen. It really put me in tune to what the true issues are and how can we really develop partnerships, and most importantly, how can we engage our families and our communities? And this is what I've said to parents. I've said this to fellow teachers. We have to have strong relationships with each other.
Yes.
If not, it's going to be a miserable journey. Parents and teachers need each other for the sake of the children to have a sense. I'm not even saying a reality of it, a sense of normalcy in education.
Absolutely.
We have to have a strong partnership just for them to have a sense, because here's the other caveat to this. It's going to take the engagement of teachers, students, parents, alumni, and the community to come together and say, we have to reimagine education. Maybe we need to have night school. Maybe we need to have school, or maybe we need to have Sunday school. And that's social emotional learning. And we are letting children play in the park and letting them have disagreements and letting them have arguments to see how they're going to work it out and work together and be able to build relationships, because those are the things that the students are saying they are struggling with because they're not seeing it at home. They're not seeing it on TV. They're not seeing it in their community. They're not seeing it in the video games. Come on, let's be real, y'all. They're not seeing it as an everyday commodity. So not to be on my soapbox to preach, the key to engagement is intentionality. We have to be intentional. What we're doing right now with this conversation, bringing together our networks.
Yes.
This is coalition building 101. If you are a true advocate for whatever cause you have, if you're a true activist for liberation or the movement or justice for all or whatever your call may be, then I urge you to do what I tell my students, that I have my students doing research projects on. Study the civil rights movement, study the liberation movement, study the Black Power movement, but don't study it for what it was. Study it for what went wrong, because that's the key to us fixing how we move forward, because those were strong movements. People are still, fashioning themselves after these actions of our ancestors. So let's not say that, oh, it wasn't effective because we're still having a fight today. No, let's take what went wrong. How did they infiltrate our systems? How did they come in and divide us? How did this happen? We know when we start asking these questions, that's when we start to engage all of the stakeholders, because everybody can see their value. Everybody can see their stake in the game. And so now we can say we want to have a level playing field, right? And this is what we want. I'll end on this point. My students say it best. Mr. Allen, everybody says that, oh, you could be a doctor, a lawyer. I don't want to be a doctor, or lawyer. I don't even want to have to work that hard. I like working with my hands. Let me go out here and fix these cars. I'm good with this. That's like 4 or 5 hours, out of the day for me. And then I can go and do something else because I may be a musician, or I may just want to really study science, right? And not be bothered with all of the rest of that. We have to be able to allow our young people to tell us what it is that they want to do, and us not say, oh, but poverty is going to box you in here, or, oh, no, this is going to box you in there. Because here's the reality. Didn't the pandemic remind us that, yeah, baby, you need farmers. Yeah, America, you need teachers. Yes, America, you need that cashier at Kroger. I don't care how many robots you get to deliver food or bring it to your house. I'm going to tell you this, that Domino's card that don't have nobody in it, and I've seen it go the wrong place. We've seen these errors happen with
technology. I haven't even used that.
So
we're
we
working
are
on it.
still going to be needed. We have to value that, and everybody plays a role. I think about how disrespectful we are to our ancestors when we downplay the roles and positions of people, because my great grandfather was the shoe shine person. My grandmother was the home, keeper who came in and had to, clean the house. They were hospice, and they had to come in and change diapers and care for people in their, final days in their ailment. Yeah, that was my ancestors' job. So I don't ever discount that, because we need that. We need somebody who is gifted and caring enough for someone to help them in that time. So I just want people to also be mindful of that when your daughter is like, I'm cleaning up and I'm gonna have a cleaning business. You say, no, baby, you need to go into fashion, or you need to do this, or just be mindful of those things, because you could be destroying your child's passion and their drive, and that passion, that is a part of their spirit. That's what's going to be their resilience to make it through the racism and the hatred and the discrimination and all of the isms that they are going to experience in this world that we continue to perpetuate through systems. So we have to change the system for our young people. And that starts with the engagement. We got to be intentional about how we do it, doing it together, bringing in our white allies and letting them say that, you got to be at the table to think differently too. Why is it a threat for me to own my home to you? Why is, a strong Black middle class a threat to you? Like, they have to really ask those questions, and we have to collectively ask that question and really come to, now what are we going to do to build differently? How can I hold you accountable to this? How can I help protect you? How can you help protect me? Because we forget that there have been white allies that have also been attacked, that also make sacrifices. I'm not saying that, they shouldn't because of their ancestors. We got to be honest, guys. Like, this is all impacting us every day. But that engagement, that has to be intentional. It has to be intentional, and it's not a major thing. I'm sharing these examples. It's a teacher in me, because I don't want anyone to ever walk away and say, oh, but that's their story. That's their experience. I can never do it. You can do it in so many different ways, even if you were just simply smiling at people. Let's be real, because we live in a very unkind society. You be the person that's walking down the street and say, hey, I hope you have a blessed day. Hey, your hair color looks really good. I love that. Hey, my brother, what's going on, man? I see you with your kids. God bless you. Like, just stuff like that. Like, so, because that really makes people think, like, wow, like somebody was nice enough to think, or like really just be like, hey, let me hold this door open for you, because I see you, walking in. Just being nice. You can do that too. That does also help the movement. People may not agree with that, but it very much so does.
I absolutely agree. I mean, this is why, I mean, I made it a point to always be intentional with all my children's teachers, at every aspect. And I do it because it's the right thing to do, but also because my mother was not able to do it. She wasn't able to communicate freely with my teachers because of her not having enough of a grasp of the English language, or having to work 2 and 3 jobs while I was going to school. So we had to make sure we did well, so that there would never be a question of, I need your mom to come into the school for a parent teacher conference. She never had to, fortunately. But it was also hard for her even just to go to a regular report card conference. So I say that to say that we know, you and I both know, that there are many families that, due to their outside responsibilities to keep a roof over their heads and their lights on, they may not always be able to go to that meeting. But
that's right.
But with technology today, and because of what we're still experiencing in this pandemic, I strongly urge educators to also give parents options.
Yes.
Hey, you can't come to the in-person. I'm going to schedule time at 6:00 during the week. Do you work during the daytime or at night? I'll do a Saturday a month of drop-in. I'll have my Zoom open for 2 hours. 1 or 2 Saturdays a month for those families that, because they work all week long, I want them to be able to drop into that Zoom, and we can talk about an hour. our students' progress.
You know,
or what our student needs to succeed, because it's working in conjunction. You have
and it's
to work
thinking
together.
outside of the box. You know, family engagement is, shout out to Dr. Karen Mapp at Harvard. I had an opportunity to study under her and get my certificate in family and community engagement to really help Atlanta Public Schools at that time to really change how we were engaging our stakeholders. And to be quite honest, that's why I have had so much success with how we're engaging grandparents, how I engage my students in these different groups under educational entities. Go check us out on Facebook and on our site. But it's the key to engagement. It's an art to that. It's just like it's the art of teaching. And I'm sharing this to say that we were so successful with our family engagement program, my teammates and I, because we were outside of the box. We went to the Blue Flame, which was a strip club, right? When we were delivering things, we made sure that, hey, one of the owners was an alumni of the high school I graduated from. Grandmother cooked in the kitchen. That was our way in. Because again, it's like, oh, we educators, we go into the strip club. But we knew that when we got there, there was going to be what? There was going to be a security guard who has children where? Let's break this down. The children go to school where? In the one of the clusters in our school district. Then when you get to the first person, where you get to the door, do they have children? They had children and they had nieces and nephews. And where do they go? To the schools in the school system. Then when you get to grandma, all her in the kitchen, her staff and her grandkids, their children, they all go to school where? Yes. So these are people who are not most likely going to be where? At a PTA meeting or at a fundraiser or at a function. But guess what? I'm here. So let me get some of these wings and the fry. And just give me this lemonade, because I know you done hooked this lemonade up. And I'm telling you, no, go mom and pop, restaurants, still support them because they know what they're doing. You can't get the lemonade like that anywhere else, or those wings. And so I'm saying all of this to say that we took the information to where they were. So when strippers did a voting ad in Atlanta, and some of the churches had a fit about it, but let me tell you who was applauding it: teachers, because we were like, thank you. Y'all did what needed to be done. You said, listen, we know we got a population of people that come here. When y'all come in the doors, guess what? Every 5 minutes, have you voted? We voted, y'all. We doing an interlude for voting. Go check out this site. The DJs, everybody was intentional. Come on, y'all. I'm telling you, it can be done. They were intentional about doing it. We even had a partnership with Walmart, with Subway. Okay, you got parents in the warehouses on your lunch breaks. District administrators, I challenge you guys to do this. Some people get an hour and a half, 2-hour lunches, right? This is what my teammates and I did. We took an hour out of the week. We going up to the Walmart. We doing a presentation there. That means I'm gonna get 2 different shifts of people, 2 different shifts of parents come in and hey, let me just talk to you right quick. So you gotta be intentional about. It's almost like, for those, even if you're not a Christian, just use the parable of being a fisherman of men. We casting that net. We going out there. We meeting the parents where they were. So we were in the Walmart. Parents knew like, oh, okay, well, they showing up next week. What we talking about? Well, we talking about this now. We in the school system. Let's be honest. I'm gonna school y'all on something, right? Then you gonna have to get my book that's coming out, Educational Entities, to get the rest. But let me just tease this, right? Okay, we got to follow federal guidelines. You need to have a stable home. Okay? Wakanda forever. Now, I'm intentional about that because I want you to have a stable home for your child.
That's right.
Because that's my job as an employee. But I got to be safe too, and I got to be covered. So, cousin Ann gonna show up because she's a realtor and she knows how to get first-time home owner, all of this, right? So she's gonna now come on right behind me and then connect this sister and this brother and this family now with how you can get in the process of owning your home or getting that information, for how we can get Big Mama House secure. Because again, we have to be intentional. It's not my job as an educator, because I don't want them to be like, oh, you on the school dime and you trying to get people to own houses. And a resource, just follow me, because I'm doing the work of family and community engagement. We have to be smart. We have to be intentional. So if you want to improve family and community engagement, go to the McDonald's, Go to the Family Dollar, go to the Kroger, go to the Costco, wherever parents are working at, go to the mall in the middle of the mall. We having a parent party. What is this? Are you a parent? You in the city? Here, you need this information. We just gonna let you see it. Hey, we got an app to bring the kids out there. Let me tell you, shout out to Students for Equity. That's what I do. I bring the students with me. So I'm talking to parents in my own way, and now the students are talking to the young people, and they're talking to parents in their own way. Hey, you got this app? Let me show you this. You can do this and blah, 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 blah. Right? So come on, it could be a win-win if you're intentional. This is what you have to do. Elected officials, they're not going to be gifted. They may not be gifted. They ain't going to be me. They may not have a strategy to do this. So what we have to do, and this is why I'm dwelling on this, I want the community, I want the family to be empowered to know that you have the power. Janet, she said you got to have control. What do you want to control? You have to be in control of your mindset, your lifestyle, your finances. You want to be in control of how your family structure is, but realize, a parent, that you can't control your baby's spirit. You can't control their mind, right? But you want to be in control of the structure of how they're coming of age. And so we have to rethink how we even say and do all of these things. But again, it goes back to the intentionality of how we want to be engaged. And so if you are a teacher that feels like, I don't want to do this anymore, I'm tired of this. If you are a parent that feels like, I got the wayward child, he or she has been suspended, nothing is working, let me tell you, you just have not found that right educator yet. But do not worry, because that educator is out there. We got to be intentional about articulating what it is that we need, what we want, what we don't want, what we desire, what we like, what we don't like. This is what I tell my students, and it's working for the babies, because they can say, Mama, I don't like broccoli. I just don't like it. Can we try peas? Yes. It opens up a whole different conversation. You know what? Absolutely. Why am I even forcing you to eat broccoli when you saying that you like peas? Okay, listen, I don't like peas, but let me tell you, when I cook my broccoli, I'm going to make sure that I do the peas, and then we're going to make sure we just come together and work something out. But we got to have those conversations. We have to be willing and intentional about it. So, okay, I'm done. That's it. I'm looking at the time too, and I'm like, listen, I covered everything.
So I want you to also, because I appreciate, because you know what, I consider you what I call all folks that are doing the type of work that you do, that we do. We are living ancestors. We're living ancestors right now, because we are the people that come 30, 40, 50 years from now, they're going to look back and say, listen to them. Listen to their fire, listen to their energy, listen to their emotion. And when they talk about the importance of making sure that we not only take care of our children, we take care of our families, but we also have to take care of our elders. Yes, and just like you said, like when you were mentioning, my mom was one of those folks. My mom just turned 72. And she was one of those folks that she only had a 4th grade education. And she still, to this day, she still tries to say that she considers herself illiterate. And I'm like, Mom, you're not illiterate. Absolutely not. You did what unfortunately, back in Dominican Republic, you didn't have the kind of supervision. You didn't have the person that pushed you to do more. You didn't have that. In comparison, my father, he went all the way up through being a college graduate in Dominican Republic, but coming to this country, his degree wasn't recognized. So he was that auto mechanic because he was good with cars when he was coming up. So that's what he did to support his family when he got married. My mother cleaned houses. She watched children. She worked in a nursing home as a nurse's aide, until she retired. But she pushed us.
But you know what? Even in that, and just, it's a perfect way to end with the ancestors. I wish you could see. I did, shout out to my brand team, Just Raw Creatives. We redid the background, so it encompasses all of the logos. You can't really see all of them, but you can see the Students for Equity at the bottom. Bam! Shout out to the students.
Yes.
And some of the other brands, but then I also still have the photos of ancestors, and it's just kind of spread around my whole office. I showed my cousins who are educators, and they were just like, it's amazing how you never let our ancestors be forgotten. And I'm like, you know what? I believe that when I think about my great grandparents, those were the things that they were giving me. Like those were gifts that are far more precious than rubies or any stone, because they were giving me the information of our ancestors from whence they came. And, we were direct descendants of slaves. Like, this is what your great 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 grandmother looked like. These were their names. Here are their photos. I could, I've kind of mastered reading their cursive writing and how they had to learn how to write and how they actually captured history in photos and how they would write it down on the back and they would hide it away in Bibles, or, a part of my grandfather's journal, it's in a geometry book.
Wow.
It was a pamphlet because he worked at the Navy base reserve because he was in the Navy. One of the first blacks to, be in that space. But the art of storytelling, that was what he gifted to me. That's what I remember of him, how he would describe the world and talk about the world. And when I'm even talking now, that's where my mind goes back to that 2-year-old, that 3-year-old, that 5-year-old, that 10-year-old sitting on my great grandfather's lap. And he talks to me about how he lived in these different countries and lived across the world. Our ancestors are with us. Yes. How we continue that, how we treat people. I think about this movie. I cannot think of the name of it. It escapes me, but it connected with the Hispanic ancestry. Mm-hmm. It was a Disney movie, and it wasn't Soul. I know that recently came out about the jazz player, but it talked about how you cannot let your ancestors' names be unspoken, because
we talking about Coco.
Okay, maybe that is it.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
If you don't speak their name, and I was like, I was just in tears. Like, they would be forgotten if you don't speak their names, if you don't, one of the things that I love that the movie did, it showed how the ancestors were leaving their gifts behind. It was a perfect example of what I was saying, illustrated, and my students could not figure out why I just was like, I was just bawling. They were like, but this wasn't even the crying part, Mr. Allen. What you going through, bro? And I was just like, I knew then. I was like, I knew it. That is just something with that. Our ancestors are so present with us. And it's a constant reminder that we have an opportunity to make these moments, this time, better if we're intentional about our engagement, if we share our stories, if we're not afraid to share our wealth, and we really dismantle that crabs in the barrel. Like, okay, well, if this person is elevated, then what about me? You can create your own lane, your own thing. Like, there are so many issues that people are dealing with, so many things that we can have conversations about, things that we can do to provide for our families and not have to capitalize off of someone else in order to be okay. We could all be okay and not have to see somebody else dismayed. So honoring you for just shouting out the ancestors, and they are so present in our work. This is so awesome. And I would have to say, since we are doing this on this such amazing day, Wednesday the 9th, February is my dad's birthday. The 9th is like, I always remember that was one of the first birthdays I remember. So happy birthday to my dad. He is
he's an Aquarius like me. My birthday is tomorrow.
Shout out to my daddy for years had been saying to me, you need to have your own thing. And now he's like, wow, my son is building it. He has a business now. He's really building this in order to really have a school. That's why I'm Professor JBA, because I want to be like Professor Xavier, not so much in the wheelchair though, but I want to be the teacher for exceptional learners who are the children that we have thrown away, that overlooked. Those are the kids that are victims of sex trafficking, human trafficking. They remind me of the students when Lauryn Hill's album is calling the names. And where are these students and why is no one looking for them? I want to have that school for those students that are not considered, who are not thought about, who are the exceptional learners that can really be helping us change the world. So yeah, my daddy gave me that. So shout out to him on his birthday. He's a visionary behind our family's foundation, the work and the service that we do, because he was like, this is how we can honor mama and them. And I was like, thank you for allowing me to be the person who's actually like, okay, this is the vision. Let me carry it out. And that's an honor within itself. So just want to honor my dad on his birthday. And Okay, I got one more shameless plug, y'all.
Go
Two
ahead.
more shameless plugs.
Tell
Well,
me.
one, I don't have that book in front of me, but it's called Breakfast with Barney. It's a good book by one of my friends. It reminds me of the restaurant
Yes.
Breakfast at Barney's in Atlanta, but there's a book, Breakfast with Barney. So you can go to meetbarneyjackson.com. Check that out. It's Black History Month. I got to elevate Black literature, right? Also, look, y'all, dismantle a broken system. I'm sorry, broken system. That's the light that I can't see. But this is by Zachary Wright, my brother. We were a part of the activism department of Bright Beam and worked together for a long while, still supporting him, still collaborating, but dismantling a broken system. We got to have conversations about CRT, guys, because this is going to prevent us from having conversations like this with our students in any public education establishment. So let's be real about that. Last book, because I'm looking at the time, How We Can Win by Kimberly Jones. Another good friend of mine. All of my friends are writing books. That's why I said mine is coming soon under the Speak Black Man brand. If you have not checked out my podcast on the first Wednesday on educational entities, check it out. Speak Black Man's first book, Suit, Swag, and Success, will be coming out soon.
Oh my
goodness. But check out these books from some amazing people that are doing some great things to help us really win in the society when we think about activism, when we think about healthy living, when we think about dealing with the trauma of racism as we're going through every day. So those are going to be some good books to get you through February. All right, sis, Professor JBA, I'm done because I'm looking at the time and I'm. But thank you guys so much for listening to us. Make sure you check out this sister. Her work is simply amazing. My pastor mentioned this earlier this week. We're hopefully going into the endemic so we could get back to some sense of norms, at least where we can start to gather in safe spaces with, number capacity, whatever that looks like. But we definitely need to all be together in spaces, having these conversations.
Yes,
and,
we do.
All of that. So shout out to the Black Wall Street Times, to the National Parents Union, and all others, the Center for Black Educator Development, Brother Sharif and his team, amazing, love them. And just everyone whose heart and soul is into seeing change for all people, for everyone. Everyone deserves happiness and joy and love. I believe that wholeheartedly. So,
oh my goodness, Jason, thank you. I love this. You know how time flies?
It does. Funny how time flies when you're having fun.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about that.
This is me all day in my classroom. Like when my students say things and I'm like, I got a lyric. They were like, Mr. Allen, you be trying to switch it up, but we know you from the 90s because it is all. I have some 80s lyrics, so I have to go and get some, Billie Holiday on them too, because they just be trying to one up. I love teaching, y'all. So if you are a teacher, please stick it out. You can do it. Let your passion for your students lead you, because I don't care what they say. I'm gonna have fun with my students, and we're gonna make it together. We're gonna make it together, y'all. We're gonna make it together.
Thank you so much. I know you gotta go. So if you can't, when I put you back in the virtual green room, if you have to go, I totally understand. I got your number, you got mine. We could reach out. But thank you. I'm gonna give some parting thoughts to the viewers. Thank you so very much. I will be going to Atlanta soon, very soon.
And we'll be having breakfast at Barney's. Yes.
Hey, if you give me your kitchen, I'll cook for you, honey.
Yeah, you totally can. Yes. We are ready for that. Yes. I will definitely go ahead and send that message now. So, all right. We'll do that. Peace and love, everybody. Thank you so much. Blessings to you.
Oh my gosh, thank you.
AllenForSchoolBoard.com. You can donate. Your boy is running again. We're going for the win this time for the students.
Be safe.
Thank you. You too.
Family. Thank you so much for tuning in. Again, if you are interested in being a member of the National Parents Union, please go on to the website at www.nationalparentsunion.org. It is free to join. We have some amazing things that are going to be coming up this year that we are currently working on. New campaigns, new opportunities for you to participate. As soon as it's become safer, there are going to be more opportunities for us to gather and talk and really allow you to share your stories, not just the struggles that you're dealing with in education, but also the successes. I want people to reach out to me with their successes. Tell me about what you had to go through. Send me an email. That is my email right there. I would love to connect. I would love to talk to you, because we also have to continue to lift each other up with inspiring, true stories of not only our struggles, but our successes in education. I want to know about those programs in your community that are doing well, that are putting in the hard work, that are there for families and children and community. Let me know about them. I would love to talk to you. Please be safe. Enjoy the rest of your week. And until next week, this is Maritza Gertie. Thank you so very much.